Merry Christmas, everybody. I was originally going to just tape a short Happy Holidays message, but then I thought, you don't want to hear that. You guys want to hear me talk about some movies and games. So I thought, what better way than to kind of join the crowd and offer my own thoughts and give some of my own dubious honors to the best and worst movies and games of this year. So let's get started. Movies have been really up and down this year. You've seen some of the best and the absolute worst of this year, but I think no genre has been more expansive this year than the superhero movie genre, and those represent some of the very best movies of this year. I'd like to call out Iron Man as one of the more surprisingly good movies of the year, and as well as The Dark Knight, which I really do think was the most entertaining movie of the year. I don't think it'll get Oscar acclaims just because it's not the Academy's type of movie, but for sheer dollar value of entertainment, it was a mind-blowing experience to go see that movie. I really think it was one of those genre-busting movies that will go down in history as one of the real classics. I'd also like to call out Burn After Reading as one of the best movies I've ever seen. I'm like a broken record when it comes to the Coen brothers, but those guys know their stuff. You will find few funnier movies than anything the Coen brothers make, and Burn After Reading is one of those classics. And actually, I think when it comes to Brad Pitt, his performance as Chad will go as one of the more unsung comic performances of the year. I think he'll actually get more recognition for The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, which I haven't seen yet, but I think he'll get more recognition for that than he will for Burn After Reading, which might be kind of a travesty. But yeah, superhero movies were very big this year, and that ironically leads us into the very worst of the year, which also represents a lot of the superhero movies. The Spirit being one of the worst movies of the year, unquestionably. I think really Frank Miller has lost his goddamn mind, going from the goddamn Batman on down. The Spirit is frankly terrible, and actually I think it's so bad that it's even managed to pull Sin City down a few notches, which it looks exactly like. And I think Sin City is starting to lose its shine a little bit. It's kind of strange that it does that, but yeah. Aside from that, there's a lot to choose from when it comes to the worst movies of the year. And in a way, this is kind of the year of Uwe Boll. If you don't know who Uwe Boll is, he's a German moron who thinks he can make movies. He's made such movies as Blood Rain, Alone in the Dark, House of the Dead, all of which vie for basically the top spot in the worst movie of all time. But this guy made a lot of movies this year, and I don't think you've seen any of them because they have not seen any major theatrical release. And in fact, when it comes to other people's lists, I don't think you'll see any Uwe Boll movies on the list, mostly because they never saw the inside of like a single theater domestically. I'm speaking of Postal and Seed. I don't even know if Seed was a 2008 movie, but it came out this year on DVD. It was kind of a direct-to-video release. I'll tell you about those. Postal, all you need to know about Postal is 4 words, or maybe 3 words, one of them hyphenated. Those words are Dave Foley, full frontal. Oh yeah. We're talking about one of the kids in the hall who takes an extended scene where he takes his pants off and he takes a shit. And that's a scene. That's basically all you need to know about Postal. I know people have a soft spot for the game, and really the best part of the movie is that it ships with Postal 2, the game for the PC, which was not that good a game to begin with, but I would rather play the video game Postal 2 than watch the movie Postal, which has basically nothing to do with the game at all. It's basically horrendous. From top to bottom, there is not a single laugh to be found. Well, okay, there is one where Uwe Boll himself appears in the movie as the proprietor of a German-themed amusement park, and he pays celebrities to appear there, and he pays them in gold Jew teeth. That's a real Christmas sentiment for you, I know, but it was one of those black comedy moments where he actually managed to score one single solitary laugh, but otherwise, the movie is one of the most excruciatingly unfunny experiences you will ever witness. Seed, however, is even worse than that. It's his attempt to do a serious non-video gamed horror movie. It's about a serial killer named Max Seed, I think. And he's a serial killer who has finally been caught after murdering 666 people. I don't even think the Punisher got away with that many, but whatever. It's one of the most ill-conceived, mean-spirited movies to ever be released. The opening sequence is like a 5-minute reel of PETA animal cruelty footage where you're basically watching dogs in real life get brutalized. Horrific, no doubt, but also in very bad taste. It's not entertaining in the slightest, and it's not something that should be in the video game, and he opens right up with that. So basically, when you start the movie, you are already disgusted with Uwe Boll beyond belief. But if we're talking about the worst movie to ever hit theaters this year, luckily there's an Uwe Boll movie to fill that bill as well. In the Name of the King, A Dungeon Siege Tale, yet another video game-based movie that has absolutely nothing to do with the video game. There are no dungeons, and they are never sieged. It features Jason Statham in one of his more embarrassing roles, and for a guy who is in all 3 Transporter movies, that's saying something. He plays a guy named Farmer, and that's also his occupation. The most epic things in it is the King, who is played by Burt Reynolds, and the Evil Duke, who is played by a mugging Matthew Lillard. And Matthew Lillard mugs all the time, so when he's acting over the top, it's something to behold. There's really not much to recommend it. At least in Blood Rain, there was boobs. In this one, Blood Rain appears once again as a Cirque du Soleil elf who does not go topless, and that's really the high point. Except for Ray Liotta of Goodfellas fame appearing as an evil wizard. It's about 3 hours long, and I can only pray there's an extended release DVD special edition somewhere down the line that restores like a half hour of cut footage. I believe he actually wanted to release this movie in 2 parts. It was so big, so epic, so sprawling in scale that he wanted to go for a 2-parter. I don't think we're going to see that, but we can only hope, because it's comedy gold. But if we're not talking about Uwe Boll movies, and that eliminates about 6 of them, the worst movie I saw in theaters all year was George A. Romero's Diary of the Dead. I know. Big hate mail coming on this one, but this movie is one of the worst zombie movies ever made. And that's including like all the Italian knockoff zombie movies. This movie is simply horrendous. George A. Romero really needs to stop trying to use zombies as a tabula rasa for a human metaphor of society and stuff like that. Seriously, all we want to see from you is zombies chewing people, and we don't even really get that in Diary of the Dead. The point he's trying to make in Diary is that the YouTube generation is comprised entirely of assholes. You know what? I agree, but that does not make an interesting movie. Basically, the gimmick here is that he's telling it in a documentary perspective, shot entirely in the Blair Witch style of a person holding a camcorder. It's been done. In fact, it's been done to a better degree in Quarantine, another movie I hated. But Quarantine managed to do it better in that it wasn't trying to be this pretentious, shit-filled zombie flick. At least there was some dramatic weight, there were some scares. Diary of the Dead is just laughable in its attempts to build drama and suspense. In fact, the most laughable moment of it is the fact that it's a documentary of the zombie apocalypse told in past tense, and the narrator of the movie tells us that she has added suspenseful music for dramatic effect. As if you would ever see this in a real documentary. Let's just say you were watching a documentary about 9/11 going on, and the narrator said, "We've added dramatic music for effect." Yeah, so as you're watching people get torn apart, the narrator has added comic relief music as well as tragic music and suspenseful orchestra stings to punctuate the documentary effect. Not a good movie. In fact, one of the worst movies of the year. The most disappointing movie of the year is not necessarily a bad one, but it was one I was extraordinarily let down by. Even more so because it was amazing because I didn't really have that high expectations for it to begin with, and it went far below those. There are two, really. The first one is Quantum of Solace. I loved Casino Royale. I think it's probably the best Bond movie. I think Casino Royale was awesome, and Quantum of Solace, while it was okay, was nowhere near the quality of Casino Royale. I'm not really sure where they went wrong. I think they focused a little too much on the action, ironically enough. But the real winner, by leaps and bounds, is Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, a movie I have already ranted on for like a full hour, just exploring the various plot holes. I'm not going to go through that again. You can just go back and watch my old rant. But the movie was simply horrendously bad. It ignored all previous characterizations that we'd known to begin with. It never should have been made. It ruined the character of Marion, and it read like it was basically a fan fiction that some 14-year-old posted online and somehow got made into a major motion picture. I cannot believe that we have gone so creatively bankrupt that we could not find just a simple archaeological treasure of myth and legend that Indiana Jones could track down. We had to go find fucking aliens. But yeah, that was far and away the most crushing disappointment of this year. They really should have left well enough alone. I was originally going to do a best of series for every game console going on down the line. So like a best 360 game, best PlayStation 3 game. Actually, there are so many multi-platform games out there, I've kind of lost track. So I don't know if the games I'm going to mention are multi-platform or not. So I'm just going to call out some of the very best games that I remember, and I hope I'm going to be on target when it comes to the console. The best 360 games that I remember: Gears of War 2, which I had a lot of fun with, although it's basically the exact same game of Gears of War 1. It's just got different maps and like a few new guns. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, had they changed it a lot, I probably would have complained. But there's not a lot of innovation there. Although it's still a really fun ride, and the multiplayer is still very good. It's a solid title, and one of the more reliably good games you can hope to play. Also, Fallout 3. A game I complained about a lot, but it's still a damn fun ride up to the end where it falls completely apart. But it's still a lot of fun. I know that's multi-platform. It's probably on every console, including PC. Probably the best PC game to come out this year. Aside from Left 4 Dead, which is another extremely popular title, it can be extremely difficult, I think. In fact, sometimes too much so. I think that whole cinematic appropriate monitor that goes on and kind of manipulates things can actually get too predictable, and that can somewhat take you out of the game. But for a long time, that game is extremely fun, and I think it captures more than any other game, including Resident Evil, the feeling of being in a zombie movie. I liked it a lot. I also, I'm going to talk more about this later on, but one game I particularly liked, especially if you're a big fan of survival horror, is called Siren Blood Curse. I hated the original Siren game, and I downloaded this one on the recommendation of a friend on the PS3 network, and it was surprisingly good. Probably the most surprisingly good game of the year. I'll talk more about that later on. I don't want to go ranting on about it now. But Siren 3 Blood Curse was actually very good. I liked Red Alert 3 a lot. Probably not a great game, especially if you're a real-time strategy fanatic, which I'm not. It's probably pretty light. In fact, the Red Alert series, the Command & Conquer series in general, has kind of suffered from a factor where you can beat it very easily. Like, if you're a newbie like me, or if you're not a guru, you can actually beat Red Alert and Command & Conquer very easily just by specializing in kind of one thing. You don't really need to exercise a lot of balance. Case in point, I was able to beat almost every mission in Command & Conquer 3 and Red Alert by building exclusively just a ton of fighter jets and having them just blitz the main objective, because most of the time the objective is destroy the command center. Well, if you throw enough jets at it, a few are going to get through and they're going to destroy the building. if you haven't, as long as you build up your base defenses to keep your airfield safe long enough, you'll eventually wear it down through attrition, and you'll win. A lot of real-time strategy fans will say that's a weakness of the game. You should not be able to do that, and I agree. But just for sheer camp value, watching Tim Curry as the Russian premier, it's great. Peter Stormare as the mad scientist, good stuff. J.K. Rollins, I think. Great job as the president. I had a lot of fun with that game. The most disappointing game of the year, I was tempted to say Fallout 3, even though I just called it the best. I'm not going to say that. What I am going to say, however, is a game both my brother and I played and were shockingly disappointed by. And that game is Too Human for the Xbox 360. The game is frankly terrible. And there was such good press behind it, and the initial screens at the expos and the tech shows were very good looking. I liked the premise. In fact, I still kind of like the plot. The whole post-apocalyptic thing with a touch of Norse mythology thrown in. I'm a big fan of the Marvel Comics character Thor. So I managed to get a lot of the references when it came to Ragnarok, all the various Norse gods, things like that. The camera almost hates you. You're struggling with the camera like you're wrestling the serpent of the Midgard serpent. I think it's the levels are too big, they're too empty. The combat is unsatisfying. The ranged combat is terrible because you're wrestling with the camera all the time. It's not a good game, and I had such high hopes for that. So, very disappointing. Here's where I get a lot of the hate mail. Most overrated game of the year, and I'm giving it to Little Big Planet. I hate this game. I have no idea. I'm serious. I do not know why people like this game as well as they do. I just don't see it. And it's not because it's cute, it's not because it's immature, and it's not because it seems to be primarily aimed at kids. I'm not going on about that, but I'm going to be a Grinch this holiday season when it comes to Little Big Planet. Basically what you're telling me is you've got a game with a terrific, and I do mean terrific, probably the best level design generator in console gaming ever. It's easy to use, it's intuitive, it's actually kind of fun to play with, and the possibilities are endless to making your own little planet. I don't see the point, however. When I buy a game, I don't expect the game to expect me to do its work for them. I don't really want to play somebody's lame homebrew levels because the homebrew levels invariably suck. I can't tell you how many internet levels I played that were just terrible. / impossible. I really don't see the point in me toiling for hours developing fan levels that nobody is going to play, that won't be as good as professionally made levels, and are just bound to be kind of carbon copies of other people's levels. I'm not that kind of guy. I don't know people who would enjoy that kind of thing, and I don't know that I like the game enough to want to experiment with other people's levels. The controls are extremely kind of mushy. So it's this platforming game, basically a 2D platformer with weak platforming elements. I just don't see it. You've got a physics engine in the game. Congratulations. Every game has physics in it. That does not make you special. I just didn't. There was nothing thrilling about running around, just kind of grabbing on swinging things, jumping around. That's like every platforming game ever. It's like Super Mario Brothers without the fun element of stomping enemies in Super Mario. It also seems to assume that you really enjoy collecting stickers and little things you can tack onto scenery elements for no reason. Like, do I really care about putting a sticker on some wooden marionette figure in the background that no one will ever see, that even I won't see later on. It's not like it's going to maintain. Do I really care about putting stickers and elements in my little dollhouse? No, not really. I mean, the customization option is nice, but that's like the main feature is decorating your dollhouse. I don't care about dressing up my little doll. I'm 28 for Christ's sakes. I don't like dressing up dolls. Who cares? So, the music is kind of amusing, but Katamari Damacy had fun music. It had terrible music, but it was also pretty fun. I would rather play Katamari Damacy any day of the week than Little Big Planet, and I don't have to spend $60 to play it on the PlayStation 3. The graphics are not all that thrilling. It's just not a good game. Even if you're buying for kids, let's just assume you're buying for a kid. There are better games out there to buy for your kid. Basically anything on the Wii. Mario Kart Wii. The kid would rather play that than Little Big Planet. In fact, I think Little Big Planet is going to frustrate the child because he's not willing to mess around with the Pop-It and put stickers on there. I found that it was not intuitive when it came to when you had to unlock certain puzzles, what stickers to put on where, what scenery elements to put on where, because sometimes I found it didn't work. I don't care about collecting 100% of all the stuff on there. I don't care about PlayStation 3 trophies. I don't care. I don't care about Little Big Planet. Well, that's all I've got to say. I'm sure you guys will have your own comments on that, and I welcome the comments because I know I have forgotten several movies and several games that probably deserve top honors. I'm just going off the top of my head here. So, if you guys want to talk about the best and worst movies and games of the year, hey, come over to my website, post your comments, and that guy with the glasses. I'd love to hear from you guys. Until then, however, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and have a Happy New Year. You want to say anything? No? Oh, well. Burton says Merry Christmas, so have a Happy New Year, everyone.